Hey everybody, welcome back to Webstudiosi, the dedicated YouTube channel about all things Web Studio. Now, if you want to know which is the best website builder in 2025 and beyond, no doubt we have a biased opinion, and that is Web Studio. If you don't have time, just jump into the last minute of this video and do exactly as I recommend you to do. Why do I have this opinion? Why does this video exist? And why didn't you hear it from anybody else? Let's have a look here on YouTube, and you see there is plenty of videos about best website builder in 2025, my top recommendations, my top picks. I tested them all, and so on and so forth. And one thing I see there is that Web Studio is almost never even mentioned. And then, of course, you can't make a comparison. And all these videos are pretty good, but most of them just compare the very standard website builders like Wix, like Squarespace, and so on. Some of them will mention Webflow, but not even every one of them. Let's have a look at the status quo. Basically, we have the raw part of the internet being run by WordPress. Here on buildwith.com, they say like about 23 or 24% of the top 1 million sites use WordPress as a CMS. Here's another statistics. In this case, of course, Shopify is also very important. Drupal, there are still people using that. Duda is another one. A lot of developers that I know, small to big, are trying to move away from WordPress. The issue with WordPress is that it was a very interesting project built on open source technology. It's very versatile, but the technology is 2 decades old. Nobody would build that platform in the same way nowadays. It's just impossible to make the radical changes to bring the technology up to date because there are so many integrations and plugins and dependencies that it would break a lot of those websites. There are so many different plugins. If one plugin has an update, maybe it breaks something at another plugin, and so on. Some WordPress websites are also very slow, and recently there have been a lot of controversies among several related parties there close to the WordPress ecosystem. And those clashes become even more a question mark for the whole project. Okay, there are some like section builders like Wix or maybe Squarespace. These are easy to use and you can build websites by just adding a couple of sections and adjusting these. There is not that much freedom to really build in there, and it's of course like a closed system. And then there is a third category of website builders that provide you with a large degree of freedom. You can do whatever you want with a canvas. That is Wix Studio, that is most importantly Webflow, and that is Framer. Webflow is probably the best in class tool. It provides a lot of freedom to designers and developers, and it's really perfect to build beautiful websites. Webflow giving you a lot of freedom on the front end, but in the back end is really constrained. Either you use their CMS or you have to go through loops. Webflow itself is also not a new technology, it's like a decade old. The third point is it's a closed technology. You can't just move away from Webflow once you've really built everything in there. So here is exactly where Web Studio comes in. If you don't like Webflow, then maybe Web Studio is not for you. If you think Webflow is pretty good and sees a lot of growth, but you see the mistakes that they are making and you want something better, then Web Studio might be just exactly that for you. Let's check Webflow and Web Studio one by one. We have over here the plus sign for different elements, for example, a div block or list. In Web Studio, we have that plus sign, again, with different blocks. Then Webflow has this pages overview, and Web Studio also has the pages overview. Webflow has the navigator, and Web Studio also has the navigator. So it's very similar. Back in 2023, there is this post, Why Web Studio, Why Now, by founder Oleg. A couple of things he mentioned is one, that there was Cloudflare workers that allow a very different platform and technology, and the canvas is still very useful, a visual canvas for website builders. And on the other hand, it should be open source, and there should be tokens instead of combi classes. Let's see the advantage of having HTML elements and tokens here at Web Studio. Okay, we just add an element, we take it out of the footer. Now it's just a normal div, but here in tags we can use all kind of HTML elements. So let's call it a section. Okay, we insert another element which we keep as a div. We just add some border, let's say 20% on each side. And let's say 5% on top and 5% on the bottom. And we create here, convert this local setting into a standard container margin. Bam. So we have that margin now set. We insert now another element. It's as a standard, it's a div, but we create a heading 3, which again, we just go to h3. Here is the heading. Now we want to style it a little bit. Let's say that our headings should all have a certain color and a certain way for styling it. So we have the local token here selected, and we say usually headings should be center aligned, and the color should be this purplish color. And maybe we also want to have an underline for that heading, or even a strike through. Let's have a strike through for the heading. Okay. We convert that to heading 3 normal. This is a heading 3 test, token test. Okay. So this is a heading 3 token test. We see here it's displayed as this is a heading 3 token test. Now, let's say we really like it this way, but in this case, we don't want to have it strike through, and we don't want to have it in that color. So let's get selected, and we just add here, we go here. We don't want to change all the other heading 3 normals. We want to do something locally just for this one. And let's say the color will be just black. And then here we can just convert to token text black. That is the token now. Let's see how it is. And the text is black. Perfect. What happens if there's a lot of tokens? The last token in line takes preference. So if we move that token, we don't need to change anything else. Now the color should change back, and here it is, the color changes back. So we move the text black over here, and the text is black. That is a huge advantage for Web Studio. In his next article, Oleg tackled the point that no code is inflexible and code is hard. He says like it should be a visual builder that allows you to do everything on the canvas in the front end and to be very robust, but also allows you to connect with a lot of different backends. And so you have the best of two worlds, where yes, you might not be coding, so you can do mostly no code, but you have a lot of freedom in that. And we discussed as design principle tokens, which are better than like combi classes, but also a new thing is Tailwind integration, where you can copy paste Tailwind into Web Studio, a huge advantage over like 99% of other website builders. And finally, another big point, selling point for Web Studio is that you don't have an in-house CMS, but you can connect a lot of different CMS from backend, like a backend as a service. And that means like your data is not being gated by Web Studio, but you are free to use different assets, different databases, and connect them with Web Studio. So what kind of backends can you connect? Look at this. You can connect all these different backends, which is quite a lot, including WordPress, by the way. Some of the most exciting ones might be Contentful, in my view, Notion. Then we have some very old ones like Drupal and WordPress. But we also, in the community, I mean, Sanity is people using that. And in the community, there's a lot of people that use Base Row. And also Ghost. Base Row more for structured data, database, Ghost for blogs. This makes it very versatile. You can also connect several different ones to your Web Studio project. So let's recap. What are the real big points for Web Studio? There is no tech debt. That means you can really have the most state-of-the-art platform and technology. Unrivaled focus on the front end, on the visual builder, that you can do whatever you want to do, very close to CSS and HTML, so not reinventing the wheel there. Deep Cloudflare integration, true open source, flexible backend. You can insert or connect whichever backend you want almost. Superior performance and security because of course like the integration with Cloudflare. Very intelligent design framework, so they are close to CSS, HTML and so on, not just bringing up their own wording and classes and other things. In the beginning they had the div was called box. They switched that and gave even more freedom and gotten even closer to pure HTML while still being fully committed to visual building. You can control everything on the visual canvas very granularly and change one thing as you want with a large degree of freedom. It's a truly friendly community as well. And of course, you can control responsiveness. And some things on the roadmap. One big thing is Inception, which means a new AI built inside of Web Studio. That is probably one of the most exciting things, but also on the roadmap, some changes in terms of versioning, backups, but also better connecting with APIs. You see here pricings for like 39, 29, and that's just like one domain and not a lot that you can get out of it. Whereas Web Studio pricing, you have $20 up to 100,000 page views and how many sites, pages, and so on as you want. If you have more than like 10 websites and more than like 100, 200 pages each, then Web Studio is like 90% cheaper than Webflow or Wix Studio. So a lot of things are built in the builder, and you can create wonderful websites, including animations that came out like 2 months ago. But there are still a couple of things open and probably coming in this year. So the biggest thing is, of course, AI, but also component editor versioning, real-time collaboration might be a little later. And you see here the roadmap is full of interesting things. For example, webhooks, but especially here, better UI for working with APIs and using AI for building complex resource queries. I think these are very, very interesting, but also additional the basic CMS and versioning and backup and rollback. So all these things are later this year, but super interesting. Now, obviously, I'm super bullish about Web Studio, but it's also important to be realistic to see what the current status is. And also, Web Studio might not be right for all the use cases. For e-commerce, I think in the foreseeable future, Shopify will dominate that. For established large corporates that need to have a very strong website and a large company behind it, and they don't care if it costs hundreds of dollars per month, Webflow is the place to go. And if you run an agency and you want to integrate everything and have your brand out there, maybe Duda is a good website builder for that. So overall, Web Studio is a relatively small solution, but it could be right for a lot of marketing websites, directories, content websites, landing pages, for SMEs, for interesting fintechs and other startups that need a website. For all these cases, Web Studio is already pretty good, or probably the best tool out there. Where it lags a bit behind is also in terms of apps or web apps, where things like Framer or Bubble and so on might be the better choice at the moment. But there is also a couple of things missing, so let's jump into it. There is no versioning, no editing, no comprehensive controls. There's no comprehensive backups. There's some backups, but not comprehensive manageable backups. CSS grid is missing. Invokers and actions to build like web apps is missing. There are still a couple of bottlenecks in terms of tutorials and documentation, and also real-time collaboration is missing. So there's a lot of things still missing. So it's a work in progress, and it's a very small team. So that is also something where you have to make a bet. If you like Webflow, you will love Web Studio. Web Studio is to Webflow what Svelte is to React. Now, in a future video, I will talk a bit more about how Web Studio approaches AI and what it has as an advantage over vibe coding for all the other solutions out there. But in this video, if you are convinced, good, please go ahead and join the Web Studio community. If you're not fully convinced now, please do the following 3 things and thank me later. First, set a reminder now for October or November in this year, 2025. Title, Web Studio. In that time, check again on the roadmap, check again what is the status of Web Studio, and is then the time for you to jump boat and really get into Web Studio. You can also check on Webstudiosi on our website about it. Second, sign up for a free version. It costs you nothing, it takes not much time, and start building your first site just to see, do you like that builder or not? And the third thing is, there is occasionally, and maybe there's only one more chance, to get a lifetime deal from Web Studio. For that, it's not on the website, but you can Google it and sign up at Web Studio to be informed about if there is a lifetime deal. Now, since you now will dabble around and try it out, you will know, do you want to take that lifetime deal or not? Being on that email list is crucial, and then it might be only 2-3 days that you have to decide. And who knows, maybe it costs like $3,000 for a lifetime deal of unlimited sites and 500,000 page views per month. That could be something like that. Be ready for that if you're interested. Do these 3 things. And now I want to know, why is it that nobody so far talks about Web Studio as the best website builder for 2025 and beyond? And please join me also at the community at webstudiosi.com. Happy to engage more also in the comments. Have a good one. See you next time.